My name was Ahmed. I was an Imam in the heart of London, a city vibrant with cultures, yet cloaked in an unspoken pressure to conform. I wore my faith like armor, guiding my community with conviction. But beneath that facade, a storm of confusion raged. In the shadows of the mosque, amidst routine prayers, I found myself staring into a void, haunted by a relentless sense that something crucial was missing from my life. Every Fajr prayer, I stood before the congregation, offering guidance, yet feeling trapped in a cage forged by my own beliefs. It was during these moments of silent supplication that whispers of doubt began to creep in, taunting me with visions of light and truth. I wanted to dismiss them, but the more I prayed, the heavier my heart grew, weighing me down deeper into despair. And then, it happened. One fateful morning, drenched in darkness, I collapsed during prayer, suspended between life and death. In that trembling moment of semi-consciousness, an all-consuming light enveloped me, and there he was, Jesus, calling my name with a voice that shattered the very core of my being. I realized then that I had been imprisoned, not by walls, but by the very doctrines I had sworn to uphold. As the stunning revelation unfolded before me, I felt the grip of a spiritual warfare, one that had marred not only my faith, but the hearts of countless others. I saw the layers of deception that bound so many to a system that whispered conformity instead of truth. Jesus pointed to a reality obscured by shadows and fear, urging me to break free. Returning to my daily life was no sanctuary. I became a stranger in my own skin, a target for those who once revered me. Labeled a heretic, I was cast out, facing a lonely existence filled with both despair and an unshakable urge to uncover the truths I had been shown. Each secret exploration of Christian texts felt dangerous and yet liberating as I sought to reconcile the profound peace I was beginning to find. In this journey of awakening, I discovered my purpose wasn't simply for my own understanding. It was a divine calling to share this revelation with others. It was time to stand against the silence, even at the risk of losing everything. Before we dive deeper into my story, take a moment to share where you're watching from and what time it is for you. And if you resonate with the love of Jesus in your heart, subscribe to Truth from Beyond. Each revelation brings us closer to breaking the chains of deception and stepping into the radiant light of truth. Join me on this path of discovery, because the liberation of your spirit starts here. In the heart of London's vibrant yet tense multicultural neighborhood, the sounds of life buzzed with a frenetic energy. Each morning, as the sun struggled to rise above the horizon, I found solace in the quiet moments before the day erupted into chaos. As a Sheikh, my responsibilities to my community weighed heavily on my shoulders. I stood at the crossroads of faith and tradition, grappling with the unrelenting pressures to conform. I often felt an internal dissonance, a tumultuous battle raging within me as I quietly wrestled with doubts and questions that seemed to linger just beneath the surface. One fateful morning during Fajr prayers, my world shifted in an instant. The mosque was still, enveloped in a serene silence, but within me, an electrical charge surged as I entered into a deeper state of prayer. Suddenly, everything around me dissolved into nothingness. I was transported beyond the confines of my physical form, crashing through the barriers of understanding that had governed my beliefs for so long. There, in that ethereal space, I encountered Jesus, his presence radiant and warm, cutting through the darkness that had clouded my spirit. This revelation shattered my preconceived notions of faith, Jesus spoke to me not through words, but through a powerful exchange of understanding. He revealed the hidden agendas that lurked behind the veil of organized religion, the manipulation by the elite that sought to keep us divided and fearful. I was shown scenes of strife across the world, wars fueled by hatred and division, leaders orchestrating conflicts to maintain power, all while the truth was drowned out beneath layers of deceit. I realized that the spiritual war is not just external but deeply personal, woven into the fabric of our existence, lurking within the depths of our souls. In that moment of divine clarity, I understood the urgency of awakening, not just for myself but for my community and the world. The spiritual deception that keeps us from recognizing our true potential is insidious, creeping into our hearts and shaping our beliefs. I felt the weight of responsibility pressing upon me, urging me to return and share this truth, to awaken those still caught in the snares of manipulation and fear. I envisioned the faces of my community, people I had known for years, and a fierce determination arose within me to guide them toward liberation. As I returned to my body, gasping for breath and overwhelmed with emotion, I knew my life would never be the same. The initial realization of my mission filled me with hope. However, it was quickly overshadowed by the fear of rejection. The world I had known suddenly seemed small, bound by the rules and expectations that could no longer contain my spirit. I felt like an outsider, teetering on the edge of two worlds, the comforting embrace of tradition and the exhilarating call to truth. I knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but the spark ignited within me refused to be extinguished. So I stepped into my new reality, armed with a revelation that could change everything, ready to confront the spiritual war waged against us all. As a 35-year-old Imam, I had built a reputation in my local Muslim community. People revered me for my wisdom, seeking guidance in times of trouble, and celebrating my role as a spiritual leader. Yet beneath the surface of this adoration, I felt a profound emptiness gnawing at my soul. Despite the smiles and respect, an internal battle raged on, marked by feelings of inadequacy and a deep longing for something more substantial in my life. The questions began to surface. Was I genuinely fulfilling my purpose, or was I merely a figurehead, upholding traditions that felt increasingly hollow? It was in the quiet hours of the early mornings, during Fajr prayers, that I found a fleeting sense of peace. The stillness enveloped me as I recited the familiar verses, yet even in those moments of reflection, I could sense a growing disconnect within me. As the community gathered for prayer, I looked around at the faces illuminated by the soft light of dawn, and I wondered if they too were carrying hidden burdens, doubts that lingered unspoken. I yearned for deeper understanding, not just for myself, but for those who trusted me to lead them. My spiritual quest felt like a fragile thread, tangling with the weight of expectation and tradition. Then, one fateful morning, everything changed. As I descended into prayer, the world around me dissolved into a vibrant, swirling light. Suddenly, I was no longer in my mosque but in a boundless expanse, filled with luminous energy. It was here that I encountered Jesus. His presence radiated warmth and love, a stark contrast to the emptiness I had felt. In this sacred space, there were no barriers, no labels, only pure truth. Jesus looked at me with eyes that seemed to see straight through my facade, piercing the depths of my struggles and my unspoken fears. In that moment, he unveiled the truth about the spiritual war raging in our world. I was shown the hidden agenda of the elite, who controlled narratives, who pitted communities against one another to maintain their power and influence. This manipulation felt all too evident. I recognized how easily people are led astray by deception, drawn into conflicts that serve only the interests of the powerful. As he revealed the intertwined fates of humanity, I felt an urgent call to awaken others to the lies that keep us divided. The experience ignited a fire within me, one that demanded attention and action. As the visions continued, I witnessed the ongoing struggles in society, the wars fueled by despair and mistrust, the technological advancements that isolate rather than connect, the fear stoked by leaders who thrive on division rather than unity. I realized that my internal struggle mirrored the larger spiritual battle playing out in the world. This was not just a personal awakening. It was a collective call to rise above the deception and embrace the truth of our shared humanity. Yet, as I began to grasp this staggering responsibility, I felt the familiar weight of fear creeping back in. What would become of my role as a spiritual leader in my community? How would I face those who adored me if they rejected the path I now saw so clearly? Returning to my body was jarring. I found myself staring at the familiar prayer rug in my mosque, the sounds of my community around me fading into the background. My heart raced as I processed the magnitude of what I had experienced. The visceral truth I had encountered transcended everything I had known. I was no longer just an imam. I was now a messenger tasked with unraveling the hidden agendas that permeated society. The urgency surged within me like a relentless wave. How could I communicate this revelation, this awakening, to a community so steeped in tradition and deeply rooted beliefs? The fear of rejection loomed large, but the light I had experienced was too powerful to ignore. I knew the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but I was determined to embark on this mission, ready to face whatever came next. As I entered the mosque each day, the familiar ritual of prayer should have provided me with solace. Yet, instead of peace, I increasingly found myself grappling with a deep void that threatened to consume my spirit. The prayers I once recited with conviction began to feel mechanical, as though I were performing a duty rather than engaging in a sacred dialogue with God. My heart ached with questions that remained unvoiced, lingering beneath the surface of my carefully curated facade. What was the essence of my faith? Was I truly fulfilling the purpose of my role as a sheikh, or was I simply going through the motions? The disquiet grew more pronounced, tugging at my consciousness even in my dreams. Vivid dreams filled with light emerged during the night, depicting serene landscapes bathed in warmth and presence. Encouraging figures whispered to me, urging me to seek a greater truth beyond the confines of my understanding. I tried to dismiss them as mere subconscious wanderings, but found it increasingly difficult to ignore the pull they exerted on my soul. They spoke of awakening, of unveiling realities concealed by our own perceptions and the societal structures designed to keep us compliant. It felt as though these dream figures knew something I had yet to grasp, a revelation waiting at the edge of my awareness. One particularly harrowing night culminated in a transformative encounter that would change everything. In that dream, I found myself immersed in a blinding light that felt both foreign and familiar. As the brightness enveloped me, I felt my spirit lift, transcending the boundaries of my physical form. Suddenly, there he was, Jesus. His presence radiated warmth and wisdom, a powerful embodiment of truth that dispelled the shadows of my doubt. He looked at me with an understanding that reached deep into my heart, revealing the layers of deception I had allowed to cloud my faith and perception. In that moment of communion, Jesus opened my eyes to the hidden agendas at work in the world around us. I witnessed the spiritual war being waged, an insidious manipulation by the elite, using fear and division as tools to keep humanity enslaved. The revelations surged through me like a tidal wave, illuminating the deep fractures within society stoked by centuries of misinformation. I saw wars erupting from misplaced priorities, leaders promoting ideologies designed to maintain control while the truth lay buried beneath layers of lies. The urgency of the situation hit me like a storm. We were living in a time of awakening, yet so many remained oblivious to the deception that surrounded them. As I returned to consciousness, breathing deeply in my prayer space, the gravity of my encounter weighed heavily on my heart. I recognized that these experiences were not mere dreams. They were calls to action, urging me to challenge the status quo and illuminate the paths obscured by cultural and spiritual confusion. My loneliness in grappling with these revelations felt less daunting in the waking world. I felt compelled to share what I had learned, to guide others toward the light that danced just beyond their awareness. Yet even as I envisioned this mission, fear knotted in my stomach. What would my community think of the truths I was compelled to share? Would they embrace the awakening or cast me aside as a heretic? The questions lingered, echoing in the silence of my heart, as I prepared to step boldly into a new chapter defined by truth, awareness, and the relentless pursuit of spiritual liberation. It was just another early morning as I led my community in Fajr prayer, but beneath the surface of my calm exterior lay a storm of exhaustion and frustration. Despite the reverence of the moment, I felt an overwhelming wave of despair wash over me. The burden of expectations weighed heavily on my shoulders, compounded by the emotional emptiness I had been grappling with for what felt like an eternity. Praying should have been my refuge, yet in that moment, it became a reminder of my struggles, leaving me feeling isolated in my own faith. With every passing moment, the tension within me escalated. Then, as I approached the final verses, darkness swept over my vision. I collapsed onto the prayer rug. The sounds around me faded into nothingness, and I was engulfed in an abyss, a void that felt both terrifying and liberating. In that state of uncertainty, I felt as though I was suspended between life and whatever might lie beyond. I existed in a realm devoid of sensation or sound, and in that silence, I began to confront the deepest parts of my soul. Suddenly, amidst the darkness, a radiant presence emerged, illuminating the void with a light that pierced through my despair. Jesus stood before me, and his very essence radiated love and compassion. His gaze was piercing, yet there was an undeniable warmth and understanding in his eyes. "Ahmed," he said my name with an intimacy that shook me to my core. In that moment, all my fears vanished, replaced by an overwhelming sense of peace. I felt seen, truly seen for the first time. Not just as a sheikh, but as a seeker who needed guidance. Through this encounter, Jesus began to unveil the limitations imposed by my religious environment. He revealed the hidden agendas that infiltrate faith, the ways in which the elite manipulate our beliefs to maintain control and division among us. I started to understand the broader implications of the spiritual war being waged around us, the layers of deception carefully wrapped around truth. I witnessed the conflicts that fuel societal divisions, the power struggles between leaders, both spiritual and political, who thrive on fear and manipulate the masses for their own gain. The urgent call for an awakening echoed in the air, and I knew that those of us who had been called to see the truth must rise. As he shared these revelations, a heavy but clear responsibility settled on my shoulders. I realized my task was not merely to understand, but to return to my community and illuminate the path for others. What would I say? How could I convey these profound truths without inciting fear or rejection? I imagined the faces of my community, friends, family, and felt the weight of their expectations pressing down on me. Would they resist the truths I had encountered? Could I genuinely communicate the essence of the awakening that I had experienced? Or would I be met with skepticism and anger? But before I could spiral further into doubt, Jesus reassured me. He conveyed the importance of genuine spiritual pursuit, urging me to embrace the transformation that was unfolding within. The time for awakening was now, not just for myself, but for every soul yearning for truth amidst the overwhelming deception. My heart raced as the light around him pulsed with the energy of untold possibilities. I sensed that my journey was just beginning, and with that realization came the exhilarating and terrifying prospect of forging a new path. With each heartbeat, I felt the call intensifying, inviting me to step into a new reality, a reality where I could challenge the status quo and fight against the spiritual war that threatened to consume us all. After my transformative encounter with Jesus, I returned to my daily life, but the world around me felt irrevocably altered. I stepped back into the mosque, greeted by familiar faces that had once filled me with warmth and belonging, yet now I felt like a ghost haunting a place I no longer recognized. The very air was thick with judgment, and I could sense the undercurrent of disdain that washed over me. Many in my community began to murmur, labeling me a heretic and a traitor. My heart sank at the realization that my revelation had cast a shadow over the relationships I once held dear. Each day became a battle against the tide of scorn. Family members I had loved and respected started to distance themselves, subtly at first, then with increasing boldness. I could no longer share my thoughts on faith or the awakening I had experienced without triggering disbelief or anger. I felt the sharp sting of isolation punctuate my existence as I wandered through life with a weight I struggled to articulate. Internally, I waged a fierce struggle. How could I reconcile the profound truth I had encountered with the beliefs of those I cared for? The spiritual war that had once seemed distant now surged within me, relentless and consuming. In the depth of my solitude, dreams of light and solace persisted. They felt like lifelines, pulling me back to that sacred moment with Jesus. I often found myself revisiting the warmth of his presence, the love that transcended the limitations of my previous understanding. Yet, alongside this yearning came the tension of my reality, a stark contrast to the peace that enveloped me in those dreams. The truth I had experienced clashed with the deceptive narratives that surrounded me, and I couldn't help but feel the urgency growing within me to share that truth, despite the risk of further alienation. With every interaction, I could feel the judgment growing heavier on my shoulders. I watched as my friends turned into strangers, their acceptance replaced by suspicion. I became aware of how deep the hidden agenda ran, not just around me but within me. The elite, through manipulation and fear, had ingrained division into our very spirits. I could see their influence in our society, the subtle ways they kept us separated, sowing distrust from one community to another. I realized that to awaken others, I first needed to confront the elite's deception, not just in the world, but within the hearts of those I had once called family. Yet, I also felt a flicker of hope ignite within me. The spiritual awakening I had experienced wasn't just for me. It was something meant to transform not only individual lives, but our community as a whole. I envisioned gatherings where we could explore these truths together, where we could confront our doubts openly and seek the deeper meaning that often lay beneath societal expectations. However, the fear of rejection loomed like a specter, whispering doubts into my heart. How could I invite them into this awakening when it had already caused me so much pain? The journey ahead seemed fraught with uncertainty, yet, despite my fear, I knew I had to confront these challenges. The truth demanded to be shared, and I felt the weight of that obligation pressing against my spirit, urging me to step forward with courage. In my search for deeper truth, I began to immerse myself in Christian texts, each page an invitation to understand the nuances of faith that I had previously overlooked. I would read late into the night, hiding away in a quiet corner of my home, where I could explore the complexities of a doctrine I had deemed foreign, but now found strangely resonant. As I absorbed the teachings of Jesus, I felt a sense of awakening, as if the layers of deception that had clouded my vision were slowly being peeled away. The comfort these words provided was exhilarating yet terrifying. Each revelation pulled me further away from the familiar, challenging everything I had believed. In my search, I stumbled upon online testimonies, stories shared by individuals who had similarly found their worlds turned upside down. Each account resonated deeply within my spirit, whether it was a powerful moment of revelation during prayer or a transformative encounter with Jesus. Hearing their journeys filled me with both hope and dread. Hope because I realized I wasn't alone in my quest. Dread because the fear of losing my place within my community loomed ever larger. I was caught in an inner conflict, torn between the emerging peace I felt in my heart and the impending reality of potential ostracism from my family and fellow worshipers. Yet amidst this uncertainty, I found solace in connecting with a small, nurturing Christian community. Online meetings offered a safe space to share my experiences, and the warmth of their encouragement became a balm for my wounded spirit. They spoke passionately about their faith and the awakening they had experienced, echoing sentiments that mirrored my own. It felt liberating to be among those who understood the urgency of spiritual exploration, who recognized the hidden agenda at play in our world. I began to understand that the spiritual war was not just an abstract concept. It was a lived reality for many, and we were all engaged in a battle for our souls. With each connection I made, the fear that had once gripped my heart began to lose its power. I felt a growing conviction that the truth must be shared, not just for my sake but for the sake of others still trapped in the cycles of deception. However, this resolve came with a profound weight. The realization that stepping into this truth could cost me everything I had known. I fought internally with questions. Would my family understand this shift? Would they still accept me if I rose to stand for this new truth? Each question pulled at the fabric of my identity, threatening to unravel the life I had built around the beliefs I had held for so long. As I continued my journey, the urgency of our spiritual awakening resonated deeper within me. I was increasingly aware of the societal divisions bred by manipulation, the elite using fear, misinformation, and propaganda to shape our beliefs and actions. Through my readings and testimonies, it became evident that our world was at a critical juncture. The awakening wasn't just a personal journey, it was a call to unite against the forces that sought to keep us divided and fearful. As I faced my fears, I ineffectively prepared to bridge my journey with those of my community. I was determined to emerge as a beacon of light, even if that meant stepping into the unknown and redefining my relationships. After all, the truth demanded to be heard, and I felt a profound compulsion to see it through. As I emerged from that profound experience with Jesus, a new awareness dawned upon me, a realization that my journey transcended mere personal exploration. It was a divine calling. The impact of what I had seen and felt was too immense to contain within myself. I understood the urgency of sharing the truths that had been unveiled to me. Yet, with that understanding came an acute awareness of the risks involved. The thought of facing the wrath and backlash from the community I had once held dear loomed ominously in the background of my mind. The potential for alienation sent ripples of anxiety through my heart, but so did the sense of purpose that surged forth within me. The revelation of Jesus had exposed not just my own ignorance, but the layers of deception that had clouded my entire existence. I had borne witness to the spiritual war being fought around us, how the elite wielded their power to obscure truth and manipulate beliefs for their own gain. It became clear to me that the hidden agenda of societal control relied heavily on our willingness to accept fear as a guiding force. The moment felt pivotal. I knew I could no longer be a silent observer while so many succumbed to the trap of division and confusion. Each day, I grappled with the weight of what lay ahead. My heart swelled with both hope and trepidation as I imagined addressing my community. How would they respond to the truths I was compelled to share? Would they welcome the awakening, or would they shun me, casting me out as an outcast? My mind was a whirlwind of potential outcomes, but the pull to spread the truth grew more insistent with each passing moment. I began to take small steps, initiating conversations with close friends, sharing ideas that hinted at the deeper revelations without fully unveiling the whole truth just yet. As I engaged with others, I found pockets of understanding and receptivity among some who were grappling with their own doubts. It was a comforting reminder that I wasn't alone in my struggles. Many carried the burden of unasked questions and unexpressed yearnings. Together, we began to dissect the narratives imposed upon us, recognizing the spiritual war that we were all unwitting participants in. Our discussions became a source of inspiration, igniting a collective desire to seek out the truth, leading us to confront the fears that had long held us captive. It was then that I knew I must continue pushing forward, guided by a revelation that demanded urgency. Despite the waves of fear crashing against my resolve, I could feel the light of truth illuminating my path. The awakening was not just a personal undertaking, but a communal movement waiting to unfold. I envisioned a gathering, a space where we could openly talk about the layers of deception, where we could reaffirm our shared humanity amid the noise of division. The thought exhilarated me, and I felt the presence of Jesus urging me on, as if empowering me to be a beacon in the dark. I was committed to standing firm in this calling, even as I recognized the potential for repercussions. I couldn't shake the feeling that this journey was what I had been called to all along, and I was finally ready to embrace it, no matter the cost. With renewed courage pulsating through me like a heartbeat, I made the decision to abandon the life I had known. The weight of uncertainty hung heavy in the air, but it felt increasingly clear that I had to relocate and begin quietly evangelizing, carving out a new path that aligned with the truth I had come to embrace. This decision, while daunting, ignited within me a profound sense of liberation. No longer was I tethered to the expectations of my former community, where judgment lurked behind every interaction. I could finally pursue the mission I felt called to, even as I faced the challenges of stepping into the unknown. I moved to a different area, one that was rich in diversity but devoid of the familiar faces from my past. In this new environment, I sought solace in the anonymity it provided. Each day became a journey of quiet discovery, not just about my new surroundings, but about the depths of faith and spirituality. I felt a deep burden to share the revelations I had received, to awaken others to the spiritual war that raged around us. It was a fierce battle against deception, a conflict waged by the elite who perpetuated lies to maintain control. The truth I had found became a lifeline, urging me to illuminate paths that others could follow. In my new community, I began to connect with individuals who were also seeking something beyond the surface of their lives. We gathered in small groups, often in coffee shops or parks, exchanging thoughts on spirituality and the challenges we faced. These conversations opened doors to profound insights as we challenged each other's beliefs and sought deeper understanding. It was here that I felt the true power of collective awakening, the realization that we were not alone in our struggles, and together we could confront the deceptions that sought to divide us. As I embarked on this journey of evangelizing, the voice of Jesus rang in my heart, guiding me through the uncertainty. I shared my experiences and the truths I had learned, speaking of the love and compassion that lay at the core of our spiritual existence. Each story of transformation ignited a spark of hope in those around me, and I could see the flickers of realization in their eyes. It was a reminder that awakening is a process. It takes courage to confront the hidden agendas that manipulate our beliefs and to challenge the status quo. I became a vessel for the truth, feeling the urgency of the message burn within me. Yet, with each revelation shared, remnants of doubt would creep in. Would my new community understand? Would the very act of sharing bring about backlash? The fear of alienation still echoed in my mind. I wrestled with the challenges that accompanied my bold decision, knowing that the spiritual war wasn't just external, but deeply rooted in society's beliefs and fears. This inner conflict served as both a barrier and a motivation, fueling my resolve to push forward. In every conversation, in every moment of vulnerability, I felt the stakes rising. I understood that my truth could be a catalyst for change, but at what cost? The journey ahead remained uncertain and fraught with difficulty, yet the call to awaken intensified, compelling me to embrace the light, even in darkness. Years have passed since my life took a turn I could never have anticipated. Now, as I stand as a respected leader within a new Christian community, I reflect on the powerful transformation that has shaped my existence. This journey began with an encounter with Jesus that shattered my previously held beliefs and thrust me into a spiritual war, a battle not just for my soul but for the souls of many caught in the currents of deception. Each day I dedicate myself to guiding others toward their spiritual freedoms, helping them peel back the layers of societal manipulation designed to keep us ensnared. The role I now fulfill feels like a divine calling, one that empowers me to share the truth I was once afraid to acknowledge. I have witnessed firsthand how the hidden agendas of the elite can infiltrate our spirits, breeding fear, division, and doubt among us. Every testimony shared within our community reinforces my belief that we are all part of a larger awakening. An awakening that yearns to break the chains of misunderstanding and to reveal the profound love that Jesus represents. The stories of transformation inspire hope, creating a ripple effect of change that I am deeply proud to be a part of. Despite the joy of my new calling, a sense of longing lingers within me. urging me to reconcile with my estranged family. They were once the cornerstone of my world, and the chasm that now exists between us weighs heavily on my heart. I often find myself wishing they could understand the revelations that have changed my life. Could they see the love behind my detachment from the familiar? Would they welcome my truth or push me further away? It's a tension that binds me, fueling my desire to bridge the divide that my transformation has wrought. My hope for reconciliation brings an emotional depth to my journey. I imagine my family listening to my story, hearing about the spiritual war that unfolded within me, the awakening that has equipped me to confront the deception surrounding us all. I envision a time when I can share with them the profound peace that Jesus has brought into my life, a peace that has empowered me to speak the truth despite the fear that lingers in the shadows. Yet, that hope is coupled with the anxiety of their possible rejection and the notion that they may never grasp the significance of my journey. It's a delicate balance between the joy of my new life and the sorrow of separation. As I navigate this dual existence, the urgency of our mission grows clearer each day. Each conversation or gathering reinforces the importance of standing firm against the lies that seek to control us. The elite may have the power to shape narratives, but they do not have the power to control our spirits unless we allow it. My experience serves as a reminder that the awakening we seek is not merely an individual pursuit. It is a collective journey that requires courage to face the uncomfortable truths and to challenge the systems designed to keep us encased in fear. The time for awakening is now. I feel compelled to lead others toward this light while desperately holding on to the hope that my own family might one day choose to join me on this transformative path. In the aftermath of my awakening, I found myself grappling with a profound realization. Religion can sometimes imprison the soul. For years, I had lived within the confines of expectations and traditions that shaped my identity. As a Sheikh, I was esteemed in my community, yet that reverence masked the internal battles I fought daily. When I encountered Jesus during my near-death experience, everything shifted. The revelation I received stripped away the layers of deception that had clouded my understanding, revealing the spiritual war that raged not only around me but within me. Each day I felt the weight of my previous life bearing down on me, alongside the exhilaration of the truths I was beginning to grasp. As I began to share my story and insights with others, I recognized that pursuing the truth meant challenging the very systems that sought to silence us. I witnessed the ways in which the elite manipulated narratives to maintain control over our minds and hearts, creating a divide that kept us disconnected from one another. It was alarming to see how easily fear could wrap around the collective consciousness, silencing voices that dared to speak out or seek deeper understanding. In conversations I had with fellow seekers, it became clear that many felt a similar tug towards awakening, a longing to break free from the confines of their own beliefs. I began to understand the significance of Jesus calling me by my name during that encounter. It symbolized more than just a spiritual connection. It was an invitation to lead others toward the freedom that comes from embracing the truth amidst the complexities of our modern world. This was more than a personal journey. It was a collective mission to shine a light on the hidden agendas that permeated our lives, fueled by a shared desire to awaken from the slumber that bound us. As I ventured further into this new reality, I experienced moments of profound joy juxtaposed with waves of anxiety. Each step I took into the unknown was a dance with vulnerability, where every connection I made with those eager to learn became a testament to the power of shared revelation. Yet, The fear of losing the familiar, the community that had once provided me comfort, lingered like a shadow. The tension between my commitment to the truth and my desire for acceptance was palpable. I often wondered if I would face rejection from those I had known for so long, or if they might find a way to embrace the new me. Ultimately, I discovered that the pursuit of truth leads to freedom. With every ounce of courage, I continued to speak. I encouraged conversations about the spiritual war we were all a part of, emphasizing the importance of awakening to the deception that surrounded us. There was a sense of urgency, a calling to awaken those who might still be trapped in fear, unable to see the light that lay just beyond their beliefs. Together we could challenge the very systems that had sought to stifle our voices and build a community rooted in authenticity. As I stood at the precipice of this journey, the truth pushed me forward, an undeniable force guiding me into a life filled with purpose and profound connection. Now that you've journeyed alongside me through this life-altering experience, I feel compelled to ask you, have you ever sensed a greater truth lurking beneath the surface of your reality? A truth intertwined with the very essence of our beings that calls out to us, urging us to awaken? The spiritual war one encountered isn't confined to just my experience. It reaches into the lives of countless others, beckoning you to recognize the significance of your own path. As I navigated my own awakening, I realized the gravity of our shared existence, all bound together in this dance of light and shadow. We are caught in a web spun by unseen forces that thrive on our division and fear. But we, you and I, have the ability to break free. The revelation that Jesus brought into my life was not merely for my awakening, but for yours as well. It's a calling for us all to rise, illuminate, and challenge the narratives that seek to keep us shackled. I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a moment, a whisper, or a stirring that made you question everything you know? Perhaps a feeling, a dream, or even an encounter you can't quite explain. Share your reflections in the comments. Your story could be the spark that ignites someone else's journey towards truth. And if this story resonates with you, if you feel that tug in your heart, don't leave without subscribing to Truth from Beyond and activating the notification bell. Your engagement not only supports our community, but ensures you remain part of these vital conversations as they evolve. The awakening we are part of requires each of us to stand together. Your presence matters. In our next video, we'll explore another miraculous testimony, one that unveils how love can transcend the deepest divides. This journey is just beginning, and I'm honored to walk it with you. I'm Hamza, and I invite you to remember, the truth, when embraced, will always lead us home. Stay blessed.